Thank you so much. So good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this lecture. I'm very glad to be part of this FEMT conference series of this semester, and I would like to thank all the organizers, especially Professor Ben, for giving me this opportunity to share my research on Tibetan alchemy and ritualized pharmacology. Today I'm going to provide you with an overview of a section from a medical ontology which is called Gser bre chen, or the Great Measure of Gold, ascribed to members of the Janti medical lineage, and in particular to Janti dgnul. My talk will be divided actually in two parts. The first part regards the section that deal more specifically with mercury etochemistry, and we will see how the Gser bre chen actually is very important for the history of Tibetan etochemistry, since the Janti physicians were those who systematize all the medical instruction ascribed to Rinpoche Chempel, who is a Drupa Kagyu master of the 13th century and the forefather of Tibetan etochemistry. We will see a little bit about the formation of the medical tradition that in Tibetan is called Ngulchu Tsodru Chemo, that means the breath purification of mercury. Also in the second part of this talk, I will focus on the transmission history of ritual text that in the Gser bre chen are classified as Rakṣā text, or that deal with ritual to avert or to counteract poisons, and are classified as Duksungwa, which is Sungwa is the Tibetan rendering of Rakṣā. But we also have other synonyms that are used to classify this text, which are Dukwang or Dukselwa, and we have also minor texts that focus more on let's say mantric formula and can be classified as Vidya or Dharani. All these texts are associated to the cult of root food deities such as Vajra Bhairava, Yamantaka, Janguli, and the Nyima Pewonche and Ayagriva. So studying these sources are quite important because they give us the possibility to understand how these rituals were integrated in the medical context during the 13th and the 15th century. And this analysis will also allow us to consider the grand narrative of learned medicine, so the historiographical image of medicine as it emerged from the analysis of this text. So we shall see how medicine was defined by this physician during the analyzed historical period. And we also will briefly refer to the dynamics of power that led to the establishment of the Janti Medical School, since they received the support of the Sakya school. So we, from this period onward, we can say that medicine became an instrument of power, and also the analysis of this text is very important because we can collect additional data about the intellectual and religious history of Tibet during this period from the 13th and 15th century. A very important part of my talk will deal with the analysis of Rakṣā tests that, in my opinion, are a different version of the Duksuma Jagyepa, which is a ritual text ascribed to Rakṣā, and this text has been studied by Professor Cueva in his work on the Rapu. So here we have different versions and different transmission history of this text that were handed down within the Sakya lineage, but I shall anticipate that actually we have a very complex transmission history in which we find masters of different schools, not only Sakya, but also Nyima, especially the Nyima Terma tradition, both the Janter and Hoter tradition, and the Jonang school also. And as a result, we will see how the Janti physicians, and especially Janti Gyaltsen, used integrative model on knowledge, let's say origin myth on knowledge transmission and subjugation myth, as a way to integrate non-Buddhist knowledge in the Tibetan medical context. As I said before, the Janti family, they were supported by the Sakya school. I shall say that the Janti lineage is a very old lineage, and according to Tibetan medical historiographies, this lineage is connected to the Bijiba lineage, or the lineage of the famous Basilius, who is the, let's say, was an exponent of a Greco-Arab medical tradition that spread in Tibet. We don't know exactly when, but we shall say that this school is quite ancient if we think to the history of Tibetan medicine. But the most important period for the Janti medical lineage was the 13th century, since they, as I said, they were supported by the Sakya medical school, the Sakya school, and in particular was Janti Pelsampo, who was appointed as official physician by the Punchen Danyi Chempo Sampopel, and from that period onwards, they were at the head of the Sakya Mendrong, the Sakya medical school. As you can see here, we have a very short lineage of the Janti family, and I mean, this title of official physician and the title of head of the Sakya Mendrong was passed down within the Janti family from the 13th century onwards. I have used a different reduction of the Gser bre chen, mainly these three, because here we have, let's say, they are very rich in terms of alchemical and ritual text, if compared to other versions of the Gser bre chen. And I'm going to analyze section from the Orgimpa Precious Garland of method to compose the Black Mercurian medicine for the first part of my talk, while all the other texts are related to, as I said, the Rakṣā literature, as you can see here. We have the Maheshvara instruction to overpower poison, the protection against poison, Bhairava story, the trilogy of diagnosis cure and protection from poison, the concise summary of diagnosis cure of poisoning, and the curative method in case of adverse effect of wrong medication and poisoning, the Ambrosia Moonlight Rays. As you can see already from the title here, we can understand that, as in the case of the history of Indo-Tibetan alchemical tradition, also in the case of this Rakṣā literature, let's say, this tradition on ritual text, we have an interrelation of Buddhist and non-Buddhist tradition. Why the Gser bre chen is important? It's important because here we have a precise agenda. So Janti Gyaltsen and the other redactors of this medical ontology, they try to represent the own medical lineage as the essence of diverse medical, alchemical, pharmacological, and ritual tradition of teaching transmitted by masters, both Indian and Tibetan Buddhist school, not just the Sakya school, that, as we have seen, was connected to the Dante lineage, but also the Kagyu school, the Jona school, and the Nyima Dharma tradition, as I said, and non-Buddhist school, or non-Buddhist literature on poison. And in so doing, they constructed the discourse on the origin and transmission of medical and pharmacological knowledge by using historical attribution, historical data, but also pseudebiographic attribution and legend. So it's a very complex transmission history. Here we have a very schematic idea of what was the concept of medical science according to the Dante physicians. And we have what I call the historiographical image of medical science as learned Buddhist medicine, a magisterium that relies upon a very solid theoretical and exegetical apparatus, where medicine is interrelated to other disciplines, to operative knowledge that in Tibetan are called zuric. So we have all this large spectrum of technologies, especially those related to Rasayana practices and mercury procedures that are part of the Rasa literature and the Rasa let's say, tradition that was integrated in the Tibetan medical literature. We have a profound interest for the materia medica, and in particular for potent substances and poisonous substances, both animate and inanimate poisons, for the purpose of obtaining the perfect, or let's say the universal panacea that can cure any kind of diseases, including widespread diseases, poisoning, but also this medicine was the perfect ritual protection against any kind of calamities, curse, and let's say evil assault of non-human beings. We also can see the scholastic attitude of Dante Gser and the other members of the Dante family who worked on the Gser bre chen, who had this double relationship, let's say, double attitude towards the tradition, because they were interested in preserving all the oral and written tradition, medical tradition that they received from their masters, but they also tried to classify all this literature, creating dosographical categories, and also they try to explain the most difficult points in order to make it easy to understand all these very complex and rich instructions. But as we should see, Gser was also aware that it was important to write down hands-on instruction. So we have also his experience, let's say, the way he wrote about this instruction was also put them in relation with his own medical experience, his practical experience. So he says, rangi nyongwadan jar chiwa. So we have this double, let's say, way of phasing this the tradition and the authoritative knowledge coming from the master of the past. In the word of Dpal Dengyechen, the Gser bre chen is described as I said, the distilled essence of different tradition, because it preserves Indian and medical, alchemical and ritual tradition that here are referred to as the tradition of the Ngumpa Sheba Dan Dimpe Jansong, so the clairvoyant sages, which represent the Ayurveda, so the authors, the most important authors of the Ayurvedic tradition that mainly in our case are represented by Vagbhata and the Ashtanga Hridaya Samhita and the commentarial tradition associated to his works. Of course, the Siddha legacy and more in general, the Rasa Shastra literature. And then we have what Padengye described as Nampadan Chirol Dukselu, which are Buddhist and non-Buddhist tradition of Vishavidyas and Vishatantras. Now we start with a section that regards more specifically Tibetan mercury alchemy. And we have here the long history of this alchemical tradition ascribed to Gser bre chen. For those of you who are not familiar with Gser bre chen, I should say just a few words to give you a little bit of context. Gser bre chen was a master of the Drupakagyu lineage. His root master was Gutsampa, and he was an expert of the Kala Chakra tradition, scholars of the Kala Chakra literature, and also in this respect, he wrote an important Seva Sadhana, which is called the Dorje Sumnyin Drup, or let's say the approach and accomplishment of the Trivajra, in which he reframed the Shadanga Yoga, and I will say something about it when we will look at the interrelation of mercury procedure with yoga and contemplative practice. He was also an alchemist, and as we know from the hagiography written about him, but also he was a translator, and he translated several Rasa Shastras that are preserved in the canon. Here we have two that are ascribed to Vyadipa, the Rasa Siddha Vyadipa, so the Nguchu Trubetenchu, so the treatises to obtain the perfect mercury elixir, and the Sergyutenchu Dupa, so the compendium on Dhatuvada, or let's say aurification. Which actually are, as I said, are two Rasa Shastras. So here we have all the samskaras to obtain the perfect mercury elixir. And of course, the process starts by obtaining the perfect elixir that can transmute basic metal into golds, as we can see from the section or the text, the treatises on Dhatuvada. And the last phase is the perfect mercurial elixir that can be ingested to obtain longevity, siddhis, and eventually also this practice, when interrelated to internal practice, let's say yoga and also postural yogas, as in the case of Orgyenpa's tradition, can lead to to Buddhahood. So here we have the description of what is alchemy or mercury alchemy according to Dpal Dengyechen. He says that this tradition is the method of subduing mercury that originated from destructional teaching by Nagarjuna, by the sage Vyadipa and other sage clad in yellow dust, from the treatises of medicine on the mentioned Yelage Benyimbo, that is the Ashtanga Hridaya by Vagbata. So, and it's also here referred to its commentarial tradition. We have the reference to the Tantra of the essence of ambrosia, that is the fourth Tantra or Gyushi, the canon of Tibetan medicine, but we have also references to what he calls the Tantra of the seminal theriac Tiledaryagen, which is actually Nimaterma, that is called the ways of Amrita of immortality, and we know that this is the precise textual cycle, because we have an intertextual interrelation with the terma. So we have section from the Shimedutsi Bumpa included in Orgyenpa's Precious Garland. And as I said before, here we can see let's say the scholastic aptitude that these masters has when they try to preserve this instruction and comment on them. In fact, Padang Gyatsen says, Masidor Gempa, obscure and secret experience and practical teaching, Chagden, the whole series of this practice as oral transmission Yingyu through the direct instruction Sheshe of Jantipaden Soche, who belong to the uninterrupted lineage of Siddhas and expert Lama, here are explained in an accessible form and easy to put in practice. And also it says, Jantipa Dengel says, the whole direct instruction handed down by the learned masters have been unified in a detailed elucidation. And he says, having realized the meaning of the words of the ocean of scriptural tradition and combine it with, I have combined it. So he said, he combined this with his own practical experience. So as I said before, here we can see this double relationship, this double attitude towards the tradition. So the authoritative oral and scriptural tradition. In this collection, we have different lineage of transmission. The first one is this of the Kandroma Kagyama, or the Dakini Secret Seal teaching that he received in Udhyana during his pilgrimage to Udhyana. And this is when Orgyenpa Temple, according to the traditional accounts, received the transmission of the Dordesum Yendru by Vajra Yogini and other Dakini in the town of Kakala, which is also spelled in different ways in Dumatala. Here we have this lineage of transmission where we have, for example, Indrabhuti of Udhyana or Mahasiddha Shawaripa, and this it's a way to somehow situating this tradition in precise context, that is the context of Mahamudra teaching associated to Shawaripa. And of course, we have the transmission handed down within the Janti family, as you can see here. Then we have another lineage of transmission that is that of the mercury medicine to cure diphtheria and ulcerated sores. Here, the teaching is ascribed to a female practitioner that is called Kandra Nimauser. We don't know actually who she was, but we know that when Orgyenpa went to Udhyana, he met several yoginis, several female practitioners. One of them was strictly related to Gutsampa, to his master. And most probably he received this teaching from if not from this yogini, from other yogini that he encountered during his pilgrimage to Uddiyana. And here we have master of the Nyadova lineage, as you can see, and again the Dranti lineage. Another lineage of transmission. So as you can see, we have very complex transmission history with different lineages. Is that the profound destruction of mercury, where he says that he found actually a manuscript in Indian script that he translated into Tibetan while he was in Jalandhar. And I was also supported by an Indian Pandit, most probably Kanakashri, who revised the text. And then we have again the Nyatoa lineage and the Dranti lineage for the transmission of this text in the Tibetan medical context. So what is this Ngulchutsaruchemos, this great purification of mercury? We have mainly three main phases, which are meant to purify mercury, or as it said in Tibetan, to tame mercury, ngulchu durwa, because mercury is theurgically associated with the Shiva semen, so it has to be subdued, and so we have these three phases which are meant to purify mercury, to eliminate oxide, and mercury in this case is to be rubbed in a goat skin sac or deer skin sac with other substances, and then it has to be cooked with herbal, salt, and acid substances to eliminate perforating poison. But the most important phase is the third one, which is called the confrontation with the enemy and the changing form, in which mercury is mixed with precursed sulfur, which is the female counterpart of mercury, and then it's mixed with other mineral and metal substances, which are called the 8 devourers. So these are the 8 minerals and 8 metals, which are called the eight binding elements. And they are used to stabilize mercury. And in this way, we have the key substance, that is this sotal, or the black mercury sulfide bhasma, or hashes, that since it's made of mercury and sulfur, and by all these metal and minerals that correspond to the 5 elements of all the phenomena, this substance is described in a very, let's say, alchemical and also ontological terminology, because Tsotal is described as you can see here, as Kungi Hama or Kunshima, that is the matrix and basis of all. And also as the Rinchen Chugye Dunma Namke Dochen, so the tamed kim of precious substances possessing the color of the sky. So once Tsotal is obtained, it can be used to prepare the famous Rinchen Rirbu, the precious pills, which are very complex. Actually, this is just the let's say the key substance of the precious pill, that are used both for medical purposes and alchemical purposes and spiritual purposes, to achieve not only longevity but also Buddhahood. when this process, as we can see here, is associated to yoga and contemplative practice. We can see this interrelation, especially when it comes to the description of Rasayana practices. Here we have the description of the mercury medicine that has total as key substance, but we have also other substances, as you can see here, gold, sulfur, black pepper, ginger, myrobalance, the 6 good substances, but also salamander meat, which is used to cure different kind of humoral disorders and conditions, and the formula can be changed according to the condition to be cured. But to be effective, to achieve the ultimate results, the medicine on the, let's say, this mercury procedures must be associated with the practice that here is described in a very synthetic way. As you can see here, we have the Wiley. The text says Salung Tin Le Jangwa, that means the purification of channel, prana, and seminal drops that can be achieved through the stage that is called Chubachemo, the great accomplishment, that is the last stage of the Shadanga Yoga according to the approach and accomplishment of the Trivajra composed by Urgempa. And the text says, Chungwe Lung Zi Tongdang, that means here actually it refers to the pranayama, so Sokzin, that is the practice to control all different kind of pranas associated to the 5 elements in different ways. And also we have the text hint to the Hatha yogic practice as the Vajra Japa, as you can see here, because he says Haring Dun Tab. Sorry, here there is a mistake. H is missing here, which means the way of uttering or pronouncing long ha. And as you can see here, I have also I'm also giving you, let's say, a summary of what is this Seva Sadhana written by Urgempa. So actually, the 6-fold yoga is, as I said before, is reframed. We have 3 main phases, which are called the 3 Vajras of body, speech, and mind. Each of them include 2 limbs of the 6-fold yoga, from the Sosurdupa, so the withdrawal, to the last phase, that is the great accomplishment, Trubachemmo, that is this luminous, non-conceptual meditative absorption. And to these phases, which include not just, let's say, Kirim and Zakrim phases, but we have also postural yoga. So we have the description of Tulkor, actually. We have gazes. So it's a very complex practice through which can be the body and mind are gradually purified to obtain what a different stage of bliss, and eventually to realize the rainbow body. So this it's a very important and also interesting practice, because here we have the realization of the rainbow body integrated into the Shadanga Yoga practice. And here we have a more practical aspect, let's say, because at the beginning I said that medicine is also integrated to technologies, to Zorik, as I said before. And here we have the description of the hot extraction of mercury from different kinds of substances, not only cinnabar, but also pyrite, real gar, and even plants. to be specific, plants from the Amarantaceae family. And we have the description of yantras or tulkur, which are these apparatus, let's say alchemical devices to extract mercury from all these different substances. We have the description of these yantras, how to create them actually. So that the first is the description of this yantra. I shall start by saying that all these yantras are meant to obtain an upward, let's say, extraction, an upward directed extraction of mercury, which actually we can compare to the process that in Rakṣā is obtained by using the Hudva Patana yantra. As you can see here, we have different pictures. In the first case, to obtain mercury from cinnabar, we have the description of these two clay cooking pots, one larger, which is as an oval, is oval in shape, and one smaller. The larger one, so it's underneath, and the small one must be put upward, and the external surface of the smaller one should be smeared with different substances, as you can see here. The larger one is filled with water, and so also triturated and pre-processed cinnabar, and then the crucible is put on fire and is cooked until cinnabar evaporates, and then let's say small drops of mercury are at the end can be found attached to the external surface of the upper chamber, and so we have this small, let's say, pearl of mercury that should be collected and processed to obtain the mercury elixir. And then we have the description of another yantra, which is used to obtain mercury from pyrite, real gore, and from Chenopodium album. We have the description of this larger pot or pan, so it's not clear actually, but I think this is more a pan, and which is filled with all this salts and water, and of course triturated the key substance that has to be used to extract mercury. And then we have a smaller pot, which is reversed, and the two pots are unified, so they with their mouth are unified, are attached one to another, and smeared with a plaster made of mud. And then the process is quite the same because, as I said, it's upward directed. So at the end of the process, mercury is gathered in the upper chamber of the yantra. So this is very interesting because we have similar description, not just in the Indian, more broader, more let's say broader Indo-Tibetan alchemical tradition, but we have similar description also in other alchemical traditions, the Greek, the Arabic, the Syriac tradition. So the description of this yantra is very interesting. Also, the hot extraction of mercury, if we take these cars in let's say if we discuss it from the longue durée perspective, so from the perspective of circulation of practical knowledge in ancient and pre-modern Eurasia. So it's very interesting, I think. And then we come to the most interesting part of my talk that regards the history of this Vajra Bhairava textual tradition in the Golden Measure. And as I have anticipated, in my opinion, there are possible connection to the Duksungeba or Majageba ascribed to Rakṣā. But here we have different lineage of transmission and different version of this text. The first text to be analyzed is this text that is called Gser bre chen, so protection against poison, the Vajra Bhairava story. And here the Vajra Bhairava Yamantaka tradition of Rakṣā practices against poison is ascribed to Bejo, that is Vairocana Vajra or Vairocana Rakṣita. And we know that because in the Logyu, so in the history that we have here, there are elements that we find in other geography about Vairocana Vajra as the one composed by his disciple Shangyu Draba Tsundu Draba, which has been also studied by Professor Curtis Schaffer. And here the story, we have overlapping account, because actually here we have the story of Vairocana Vajra, who rediscovered this terma in Udyana, which is called Sankor Jijegi Mengak, while in the Duksun Majageba we have Lalita Vajra. So we have this overlapping accounts. And we have also the description of other texts which are called, are this reversing ritual associated to Maheshvara and Uma. And all these texts have been transmitted in the Gser bre chen, so they were interpreted in Tibetan medical tradition. So the element in common with the mentioned geography is the native place of Vairocana Vajra, who was originally from Koshala, and also the fact that, as you can see here, he visited the Minyak kingdom, the Sisya kingdom, and because he was invited by the Minyak king, since he was a very famous Rasa Siddha. What we find here is very interesting, because Vairocana Vajra is associated to a theoretical master who was an expert of different kind of knowledge, expert of poison. So I was expert of how to use poison to kill and to destroy enemies. So here we see the description of all these instructions that were transmitted to Vairocana Vajra. So the hidden black sorcery, the black practice to annihilate poison, the black practice to inflict harm, the black practice to occurs madness, the black practice to destroy the enemy at touch, but also healing practices such as the external method, the red protection for the liver, the internal protection of the beautified peacock, the secret method of all-pervading Vishnu turtle, and all-pervading Narasimha reverting ritual, a different kind of instruction that are described as the white, black, and multicolor formulas containing like potent substances or poisons. Vairocana Vajra also received instruction that when he became Buddhist, received Buddhist teaching that are the equally preserved in the Gser bre chen. The other cycle, the protection with the wheat strive, the golden Dharani mantra, that is the internal, let's say, all the esoteric protection. And then we have the secret cycle, the her destruction of Vajra Bhairava, the Sankar Dorje Jikche Nyingi Mengak. This lineage of transmission is connected to Kumpang Chodakpa Sampo, who was a disciple of Dodpapa, and as we know, he was a master that belonged both to the Jonang and the Sakya lineage, and it was him who transmitted this teaching to Dante Gyalwa Sampo, and this is how this teaching was transmitted within the Dante lineage. So to give you a few information about Vairocana Vajra, he lived in the 12th century. He had many Tibetan disciples. You can see here Dusung Khenpa, Tru Lotsawa, Dingri Chogidaba, with whom he translated many works preserved in the Buddhist canon, where we have several were handed down under the name of Vairocana Vajra, Vairocana Rakṣā, Sri Vairocana Vajra, or Avaduti Vairocana Vajra. So he is author of work on the Shadanga Yoga, Rakta Yamari, as you can see here. He translated work related to the Doha tradition, work associated to Virupa transmission, but we have also non-canonical teaching ascribed to Vairocana Vajra. One is an alchemical teaching that is preserved in Gampoba Sungbum. We have also one work in the Rinchen Terzu, which was translated with by Vairocana Vajra in collaboration with Dingri Chogidaba, which is this word on Mahakala. And other, among his disciples, we have also Barilotsawa, and I already mentioned Shangyudaba Tsundudaba, who is the author of Vairocana geography. So what is the content of this Rakṣā text? We have the sadhana Vajra Bhairava Yamantaka, which is said to be based on the sadhana of the worthful Manjushri. Here we have a very interesting description of this idam, which is the deep blue Vajra Bhairava with a buffalo head with one face, two arms, holding a bow and arrow, which is the identical idam that we have in Ralotsawa's Duksumajageba. And what is interesting is that the Duksumajageba, the only source that associate the Duksumajageba to Vairo, or to the master who is called Tolung Vairo, is the Shinjeshe Shochung by Taranada. So again, we can see this connection with the Arjonang lineage somehow. In this source, we have the description of way to obtain the complete invulnerability from any kind of poisoning, and this can be tested in different ways, as you can see here. If someone who achieved who can perfectly master this practice and test his invulnerability from any kind of poisoning by casting mantra on aconite, which will become blackish, or can even revive a rotten liver by casting mantra. We have also formulas of whose key ingredient is sumi, which is Corydalis, a kind of Corydalis which can be identified with the Corydalis yansuo. And we have different formulas, which I'm not going to discuss them. Few of them are used to cure poisoning, as you can see here. So what about the non-Buddhist practice that we have mentioned in the Logyu, included in the Gser bre chen? They are preserved in the Gser bre chen. So somehow they were preserved and transmitted in the Dante lineage. So we have the peacock internal method and the all-pervading Vishnu Tartu that here are integrated in a text or cycle which is called the Hala Hala Chakra in Tibetan, Duki Korlo, or is also called Dugwa Chempo, Dugjompe Korlo. And here we have the description of different kind of protective yantras, protective wheel. We have the turtle turned upside down, and the peacock protective wheel, which is said to be part of the Rinchen Majegu, the tantra of the precious peacock, and different kind of formula against poisoning, let's say. Also, we have description, a way of to detect poisoning, and so to distinguish different kind of poisoning. This Hala Hala chakra has a narrative frame, which is, I think, really interesting, because here we have the description of the Hala Hala poison, this primordial poison, who is going to destroy the entire world, and then all the gods, including Yuma, they requested to Maheshvara to teach them the way to counteract the Hala Hala poison, all the antidotes to prevent this destruction. And so Maheshvara, who is equiposed in the state of contemplation that is called Maheshvara, subdural poison, emerge from the samadhi and teach the way, different way to counteract the Hala Hala poison, which are called again the black, the white, the black, and the multicolor instruction to counteract and to master all the knowledge about poison. This is very interesting because on a ultimate level, we can say that Maheshvara is an emanation of Shakyamuni or Heruka in Vajra Bhairava. So we can see how this knowledge has been integrated in the Buddhist context. Again, we have also the description of other non-Buddhist rituals. Here we have the Huma Pith instruction, which is also called the Rajabhavana, or the Huma reversing mantra and the Maheshvara Huma reversing ritual. We have different titles, all handed down by Vairocana Vajra. Here, the practitioner has to visualize himself as a cosmic Maheshvara, as in the narrative frame that we have seen before. We have the explanation of the mantra, which is a reversing mantra to avert any kind of evil beings, obstacle, and curse, as you can see here, Mara, Yama, Hante, Lasindege, and so forth. And all this mantra should be wearing a support in image of Maheshvara, and which has to be wrapped into a black cloth and worn. We have here just, this is the unique test where we have the where Lalita Vajra is mentioned. So this is very similar to what we find in the Dusuk by Ralosawa. So here we have in this trilogy of diagnosis, cure, and protection from poison, Lalita Vajra is the one who goes to Dhyana and receive this teaching of the black Vajra Bhairava. Again, we have the description of Idam, of this Idam as one face to her form of Vajra Bhairava with hair of and a bow, which is also called the Bishta Jumpelha. And he received this teaching from a female teacher. Here we have the description, different kind of mantras, mudras. We have preparation of pills. And here we have the lineage of transmission that is associated to the Therakepa, otherwise called Terajurje Wangchu or Teredurje Wangja. I wasn't able to identify this master, this lineage of transmission. So if you have any suggestion, it's very welcome. And also here we have a short reference to a master who is called Vajrakirti, and this could be a possible reference to Ralotsa Wadurjadrak. So why I came to the conclusion that these texts that I have mentioned so far are different versions, and there is a certain degree of intertextuality with the Duksuma Jageba studied by Professor Cuevas, it's because we have very similar section, let's see. Just to mention a few parts, here we can see the incipit of all these texts from the Gser bre chen, the Dukso berampe logu, the Tumoma impedampe Gser bre chen, and the Bishetaksu Sumsunkar that I have quoted so far. We have the history of the rediscovery of this terma in Odiana, and the main character of the Logu is in the first two texts is Varochana Vajra, while in the last one, as we have seen, is Lalita Vajra. So we have the description of the ritual and the idam, which is this form of Vajra Bhairava Yamantaka with one face, two arms, bow and arrow. And the same we find here in the text study by Professor Cuevas in the Rapport. Again, we have this rediscovery of the text in Udyana, but the character here is Lalita Vajra. As said before, we have the description of the same Idam, and also I mean, the title, let's say the secondary title of this instruction remind us of what we have seen in the Gser bre chen. So it's, I mean, this is a starting point of my comparison, and I hope I will continue this research. But it's very interesting to see how the Gser bre chen actually can give us all this new information about this textual tradition. And then we have another Rakṣā text, which is called the Dukwan Palam, or the Diamond Overpowering Poison. Actually, we have another version of this text preserved in the Rinchen Terze, where is associated to Ridzingodem, while here we have another lineage of transmission, but the text is the same. In the Rinchen Terze, the lineage of transmission goes back to the oral transmission of Shangshir-bum and to this term that was considered as semi and then rediscovered by Godem. While in the Gser bre chen, we have this lineage of transmission, which is starting the same way. So we have Shangshir-bum, but then we have this Jonang and the Sakya lineage. So we have the Jonang Kinchen Chanchup Sengye or Kungyen Chanchup Sengye. Then we have Papa Shenulodru, who was one of the master of Ngurchen Kunga Sampo. And then we have also the, let's say, the medical lineage, so the Dranti lineage. We have also other two different lineage here. We have what I call lineage B, which is associated to the Indian Pantida, which is called Chensumma, which could be Virupa, Virupaksha, because Chensumma is often associated to Virupa. I mean, this epithet is often associated to Virupa, and we have Lama Shang Lotsawa, so maybe this could be Shang Chok Chulu Tsawa Shiram Lama, and maybe we have another lineage which is a Shanglu lineage or Shanglu system. And then we have a third lineage of the Wangchu Chemodu Wang that is related to the Hoter traditions, because here we have Guru Chuang, and then we have again Rinchempe, Kunchupe, and then we have the Sakya tradition. We have Lama Kunga Sampo is Ngorchengunga Sampo, and then we have the medical lineage of the Drante masters. So what's the content of these two texts? It's quite similar. They share the same mandalic ceremony. So we have the description, this triangular mandala. The center, we have a vase filled up with water, perfume substances, and milk. On this vase, we have the precious vessel, which is filled with gold, myrobalan, and chiktub, which is actually could be either aconite or mandragora, and peacock feather. And all around the mandala, we have non-Buddhist deities. We have different form of Maheshvara. As you can see, we have the cosmic Maheshvara. We have the Tirtikashi Kesarin, the black Pashupati that want to destroy the vase of ambrosia to obtain the ambrosia, and they have to be pacified. And we have the offering of turma and the ritual to subjugate these deities, and a specific mantra that are called lungnung ngag. So this mandalic ritual is the recreation or enactment of what we can call in Tibetan mendrup. So we have the transformation of poison into elixir, and somehow this mandalic ceremony is remind us of the subjugation myth of Rudra and other form of Maheshvara that we find both in the Nyima context. We can mention, for example, the Guyagarpa and the Gondu, but also we have several examples in the Sakya tradition. We have also other rituals that are associated to other idam. So we have the idam, the Nyima Pewa Wanchenga Yegriva. We have different ritual to achieve complete invulnerability from any kind of poisoning, diseases, and curse and assaults from heaven non-human beings, as you can see here. We have a specific ritual during which different kinds of vekonage should be eaten, as damzik. We have also the description of other idam. In this case, we have janguli, and we have description of mantras and also of yantras of protected amulets associated to janguli.
Carmela? Sorry to interrupt. I think you should maybe, if you can, I don't know how long left you have, but we need time for questions. So if you could possibly wrap up in 5 minutes, is that okay?
Yes, I just need like 2 or 3 minutes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I speak too much.
Thank you.
So another important part of this text of the Dukwan, the Wangchu Chemodu Wang is this, the part where it says that this tradition actually is the result of the interrelation of both Buddhist and non-Buddhist tradition, because in the transmission history is said that the origin of this practice goes back to both the Buddhist Tantra, that here is called the Buddha who tamed the mammals, the Hushan to dispel the poison, and non-Buddhist Tantra, and the non-Buddhist Tantra, which is called Maheshvara, and the Hushan of poison, the Nilakanta Tantra. In Tibetan, we have Kerana Pögü, which in my opinion is the rendering of the Nilakanta Tantra, that is a representative of the Nilakanta system of the Garuda Tantras. And this teaching is traced back to Latsun Ngum. So is again a term rediscovered by so in Tibet. So we have again this narrative frame where we have this idea of the Rakṣā literature, of this tradition of tantras on ritual to avert poison that interrelate Buddhist and non-Buddhist sources, Buddhist and non-Buddhist tradition. Okay, so we have also other texts we are associated to Kumpang Trodakta Sampo, which are preserved here, but we don't have time to discuss them. And as I said, Kumpang was master of both Jonang and Sakya tradition. So again, we see this link. So I come to the conclusion. As we have seen, this ontology represents the first attempt at systematizing all the alchemical teaching ending down under the name of Rgenpa, marking the integration of such practices in the medical context, as we have seen. We have the reciprocal connection and drawing of material between Nyingma and Sarma literature. This gives us an idea of this Tibetan Vishavidya or Vishatantra tradition that has been called Duxelu so far in the text, which is based and especially on this Vajra Bhairava Yamantaka related literature. We have here an attempt to integrate diverse doctrine and practice through complex origin narratives, as we have seen. We have the presence of non-Buddhist material associated to the figure of Varochana Vajra and Latsun Ngum. And Varochana Vajra appears in the transmission lineage of this Vajra Bhairava Yamantuka textual tradition that preserve different versions of Duksu Machagita under different title, which here are not associated to Ralutsawa. And this could be a different tradition that, as I said, as I have repeated many times, is connected to this Jonang Sakya narrative. Okay, I'm finished. Thank you so much for your patience. So I speak too much, I know. I'm sorry.